Merry Meet, Annie here. Today I'm talking about the moon. I got a lot of questions this past month about the cycles of the moon, with folks asking what the cycles meant and trying to align their magics to the cycles and not always feeling comfortable with that. So let's begin by talking a little bit about the cycles of the moon. I like to think of the moon beginning at the dark moon. I like things to begin in a place of that kind of deepness and quiet, and then moving into possibility from there. So if we start with the dark moon, the first moon cycle we encounter after that is the waxing crescent. Waxing simply means increasing, and crescent simply means less than half. So the moon goes from dark moon to waxing crescent, increasing towards full light, but still less than halfway there. We then come to the first quarter, which is balanced between dark and full moons. First quarter moves on to waxing gibbous. Okay, waxing, as you know, means increasing. Gibbous is a word that drives people bats. It simply means more than half. If you think of the crescent before the first quarter, less than half. Gibbous, which falls after, is more than half. Waxing gibbous, increasing to more than half. We go from dark moon to waxing crescent to first quarter to waxing gibbous to the full moon. From the full moon, of course, things begin to decline again. They leave, they depart, they wane. First we have, after the full moon, the waning gibbous moon. On the decrease, which is what waning means, but still more than half, gibbous, which gets us to the last quarter, balanced between the full moon and the dark moon. After the last quarter comes waning crescent, decreasing, less than half. Then back to the dark moon. Dark moon, waxing crescent, first quarter, waxing gibbous, full moon, waning gibbous, last quarter, waning crescent, back to the dark moon. Now, I'm not going to take the time to talk about the kind of magics one might do at each of those cycles, because you can find that information all over the place, and it's really a matter of logic. If you think of the rising of the moon as activity, with the dark moon being the time of inactivity, as it waxes up to full moon, activity level increases, the busyness increases, the getting things done increases. From the full moon, we wane. Our energy decreasing, our business decreasing, our getting things done decreasing until we get back down again, around to the dark moon. So obviously you can think, if I'm working my spell work around the moon, I'm going to use the full moon for the getting it done, the getting in motion, getting things done, getting things accomplished. And you can think of the polar opposite at the dark moon. The opposite of getting things done is not getting things done. The questions I get, and that's why I did this video, the questions I get is, it's the dark moon, but I feel moved to do a working about getting something done. And when I read the coaching on what you do your magics for at the dark moon, it's all about introspection, working within, maybe shadow work. It's not about getting things done, but I feel a need here and now to do a magic working to get things done, and I want to do it in line with the moon. You do it, but you think about it, and you come at it from a different direction. If I don't want to get something done in the dark of the moon, I would focus on not getting it done, but what is in the way of me getting it done. What are the obstacles? Becoming aware of what's keeping me from flowing naturally through that cycle of the moon, which brings me up to getting things done. Same thing. At the full of the moon, I want to focus on being still and being quiet and being receptive, not running the cycle of full energy and getting it done. How would one do that in the full moon when our magic schedules might tell us it's all about getting busy and vibrant and getting it done? One could take the energy of the full moon to analyze, what is one busy about? What is one busy about that needs to be quieted, to be stilled, to get you to the place of being at the quiet dark moon energy that you are seeking, but at the height of the full moon? What I'm basically saying is, we talk about the cycles of the moon, and each cycle having certain energies, certain powers. But each of those powers can be stood on their head. We can always think in terms of motion and not motion, and how to make use of that for any single thing we desire. The thing about doing magic to a schedule is not so much about what the chart or the table that you are looking at says tonight is good for, if you're doing magic according to the day of the week, which each have their own energies, or what this moment in the turning of the month is good for. It's about taking the time to think of things from different perspectives. Sometimes those of us who are not ritualistic or ceremonial practitioners like I am can look at somebody who looks at the moon the day of the week. Some of us even look at the planetary alignment, and to decide what we do then as silliness. Like they are channeling us in one direction, and where's our true will? Where's our freedom in that? It's there. It's completely and 100% there. The point of this video really is to tell you that there is no phase of the moon, that there is no day of the week, that you can't do whatever you want to do. But in a traditional sense, by knowing that there are certain energies that are given, it makes us in a month's time or in a week's time perhaps shift our perspective and look at something differently than we might. Instead of going gung-ho off into a full moon activity because I want something I am in search of or I'm going to grasp and go for, maybe using the dark moon to think, or is it more about what's blocking me from making the progress I want to make? It can all be stood on its head, is what I'm saying. But that doesn't make it nonsensical. It actually makes it very logical. To use the cycles of magic, whether it's solar or lunar or days of the week or planetary or whatever we construct, as a way to shift our perspective through a period of time, so that we constantly make ourselves look at something from different angles. We all have the rut where we get in a routine and look at something one way. Sometimes one way over and over again. It behooves us to look at something from different angles and perspectives. So I'm encouraging you, especially if you are new and reading charts and tables about what you should do certain days of the week, certain days of the month, certain times of the year, to think about that as a perspective from which you will stand and look at whatever your challenge or your goal is. And it allows you to look at it from different directions, sometimes forcing you into something, a perspective, a way of looking at something you would not have otherwise. There's a psychological logic about this. Whether one truly is aligned to the power of the moon in such a mystical way that one can only do certain things at certain times, or whether one realizes there is benefit in our head to sometimes being coerced into looking at something from a different perspective. There are the two things I wanted to bring to this video. What the phases of the moon mean. So many of my viewers who are new were having problems with waxing and waning and crescent and gibbous. And also the question of, well, even if I know them, what's it really mean? It can mean everything and nothing. but a pattern that is present for us in that way allows us to shift perspective. I wish we were all able, at any point, when faced with something we desire, to see every point of view, to analyze every point of view. In the end, though, we truly can. But it is an effective tool, in a way, to play with our brains a little bit and approach acts of magic aligned with these energies, whether we experience them in reality or we experience them as different possibilities in perspective. I wish you all mirth and reverence. Mary Part.